All right, hello everybody. Welcome to TAPED CRUSADERS, the podcast that reviews every single superhero adaptation ever made. I'm your co-host Mike Gull, and as always I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Disney's The Rocketeer.
That's right, and as always we're joined by Meteor co-owner Champ Ian. Thank you for joining us, Champ Ian.
Hey,
That's right.
guys. Sorry, I was lost in thought.
Yes. Are you thinking about The Rocketeer?
I have not been able to stop thinking about The Rocketeer.
Well, you know, sometimes we're disappointed and sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. And as you can see by the photo we're going to post in this post,
Right.
there was a lot of people here tonight. And
A lot.
I was panicking. I'm like,
Double digits.
Yeah, I was like, geez, I hope this is a good movie because I haven't seen it
Same,
in 30
yeah.
years. I was pleasantly surprised. I'll just say that my 30-second review is I was paying attention. The shooting was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The editing was phenomenal. And the actors, of course, were great. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stars in here. But the script was actually like, okay, you want to talk about this versus Dick Tracy? This is a script where every single thing that was set up was paid off.
Yeah, everything matters in this movie.
Everything connects together.
The fact that the main character chews gum matters.
Right. Yes.
You know,
Good
like
point.
It's every little detail.
You start looking for these things pretty quickly. Like,
Yeah.
he sticks his gum on the rudder of his plane, and that is a major plot point.
Yeah. There's nothing random in this film. There's nothing that doesn't go anywhere. You know, and I don't want to slag on movies we've reviewed before, but we've reviewed Captain
can
America.
slag on 'em a little bit.
Stinky.
We reviewed
Yeah,
Dick
we've-
Tracy, which was okay, but this movie is how you do it right. I mean, not only is it set in the 1930s, but, and of course, in the 30s, you know, you're going to have certain things in it, but everything that's in that time period comes into play. Art Deco is used in the design of a suit, right? The fact that that it's pre-World War II, Nazis come into the plot, but also the fact that the mafia is involved, and spoiler alert, even that, the Italian German thing ends up coming into the end of the story.
Right, yeah.
It's brilliant, right? And it's like they use the setting and the time period properly. Better. Okay, if I were to make my list or reference my list of best superhero movies ever made, I think I'd have to revise it to include this somewhere. It's really good.
Yeah, I don't understand how this doesn't have a bigger following.
Right.
Like, how's nobody talking about this movie?
Exactly, exactly.
It came out in the 90s, and
Right.
I feel like I've met zero people who have seen this.
Including the people who came tonight to watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that
Nobody had
was
seen it.
sort of unprecedented. The number of people that hadn't seen this today,
But still came.
but still came.
Yeah.
You'd seen it once,
Right.
and Nicole, had seen it once or twice as well,
Right.
and she
Back in,
brought
like,
some charcuterie
91.
tonight.
Thank
Yes.
you for that. That was
Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
charcuterie.
That was great.
But other than that, like, nobody had. Most of the people I don't even think had heard of this movie before.
No.
Right?
And the thing is, I think even me, I think my perception of it was, oh, this is going to be like Dick Tracy. It's going to look cool, but it's going to be
Right.
boring. It's going to be a throwback. But
All sizzle, no steak.
Yeah, exactly. But from the first frame, I was like, it's almost like, I hate to sound like a cynic, but I was waiting for it to get bad, but it never did.
Yeah. No.
It never got bad. Like, everything worked. It never got boring. It kept building on its own story, right? Like, the characters kept surprising us. Like, Timothy Dalton had his own little twist. And, you know, even Paul Sorvino had his own little twist, right?
No, I think this was the perfect role for Timothy Dalton. Like,
Yeah.
he was great because he does ham things up a lot in whatever he's in. But not only was he playing like a mustache twirling type of villain, but he was also playing an actor, right? Like this professional man who's all about Hollywood.
Yes.
So like his overacting and his pompous attitude is like perfect. It totally fits.
He was so good in that character. There are a few historical figures who make appearances in this film. Howard Hughes, W.C. Fields, and that sort of thing. He was so good in his part that I Googled, was Neville Sinclair an actual Hollywood actor?
Yeah.
Because he embodied it with so much realism and plausibility that it just seemed as though...
Also, he has the kind of face where you go, wait, was he alive in the 30s? because he
Right.
fits that role. But then you think, oh no, he's kind of the guy from Gone with the Wind. Is it Rhett Butler? No, that's the character. The actor that played Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, the face of the 20th century. And then there's another actor I'm thinking of, which is Errol Flynn, who played Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And in this movie, I actually went to the bathroom and came back. And when I came back, all of a sudden it was the Scarlet Pimpernel. But what movie was he's supposed to be in? Do you remember the title of the movie? It wasn't Robin Hood. It was something like Robin Hood or Captain Blood or
something. I don't remember what the movie was called. Yeah.
But he fits that role perfectly.
Yeah, I think everybody in this movie feels like they belonged in that time period.
Yeah.
Like the cast is really good. I don't think one person was miscast.
Well, okay, we just talked about Timothy Dalton, James Bond, the fourth James Bond. What about Jennifer Connelly?
She's great.
She's perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she sorry, go ahead.
No, continue.
She in this movie she does kind of play a bit of a damsel in distress. But at no point do I feel like she's also playing like the victim character. Like she's not like, she seems very strong-willed and is not just like following our main character around.
She's not written as a helpless person.
Yeah.
She's written as just a normal person who just happens to fall into some trouble.
Yeah.
Well, and she also has her own, I don't want to say arc, but she has her own character. Like she's trying to have her career recognized and respected by the Rocketeer, and that's her thing, which ironically is acting in the movie.
Right.
It's a movie. But no, I thought she was really good, like perfect, like basically like a Betty Page lookalike in this film. And the thing I want to point out is I'm not an expert on the comic. I have read some of the issues.
Same, yeah.
It's famous for Dave Stevens is a great artist. But the thing about the comic book is that the girl in the comic book, and I don't remember what the character's name is, but she looks like Betty Page. And the guy in the comic book, what's the Rocketeer's name? I don't remember.
Cliff Secord?
Cliff Secord.
Yeah.
He looks like, not an actor in particular, but he looks like he fits in that era, right? Of 1930s. And also, the creator, Dave Stevens, looks like Cliff Secord.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
If you saw a picture of him, he looks like that. He looks like basically a model actor from the 1930s. And so it's just funny how it all works out. But as we've said before, everything, like we were talking about before we started rolling, like the fact that Art Deco was big in this time period, and that's used in the helmet, like the face, the grill, the what is that called?
The fin. Yeah.
Right.
And it has like a function too. It's not just like a cool design.
Right.
It helps them steer.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's so smart. It's maybe one of my favorite like movie helmets ever. Like it's really cool. I love it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Ian, you're not a superhero fan.
Not really.
What do you think of the design of the Rocketeer?
Classic.
Right.
It was classic. It fit the time period perfectly, and I don't know. It just vibed.
Yeah.
It was. You can't really describe it.
Right.
It was that perfect Art Deco. It also gave me some. I mean, this came before Iron Man, the Marvel movie, but I get the impression that they saw that and said, "Let's use some elements of this."
I think a lot
came
from that.
It was, I don't know, like a cooler Iron Man helmet.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that the original comic book design of Iron Man is closer to this than the movie. Like the movie version with Robert Downey Jr. is closer to the Ultimate Iron Man, which is where they got away from this. But this is just more just the eyes and the mouth. It's like that's how Iron Man used to look, and they it's almost like they were trying to get too modern with the Robert Downey Jr. movies, and it should have been more like this.
Yeah,
I think,
I agree. Because even like the first one, it has that same feel. Like it feels like a real helmet that he can take on and off, and then by the end, it's like this
all CGI
animated like nanotech garbage that does not look good. Everything is. He just looks like it's you can't see the parts. that build up the costume.
Yeah.
It's just like a smooth kind of like skin, and it's just not as cool. Like it doesn't feel very grounded. It doesn't feel like a real costume. It always kind of seems animated.
And I don't want to get into a Transformers discussion, but one of the things that Michael Bay missed in his films is that when you see a Transformer robot, you want to be able to like touch it because it feels like, oh, it's a car, but it's a robot that's shaped like a man, but he has a tire under his arm, or you can touch the headlight. And in this movie, the rocket was a rocket, the helmet was a helmet. The jacket was a jacket, but with the Marvel Iron Man films, it's all just CGI nanotech stuff that kind of grows on him. But I'd rather just see give him a metal costume, right?
Yeah,
and
I think
so you can actually
started
touch
with that, right? Like he had at least part of a costume. Like I know from the chest up was like a real costume, and they CGI'd the bottom a lot of the times. And then I think as the movies went, they went less and less and less, and then it was just a couple dots on his face or whatever. And
I've only made it up to Iron Man 2 in my MCU movies.
Okay.
So when I'm thinking, the very first the suit that he built in the cave,
it's great. Yeah,
is so much cooler.
It is.
It's so much cooler because you can see every single piece.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Okay, so what about the actor that played Cliff Secord? Is that his name?
Yes.
What's the actor's name?
Billy Crystal.
Billy
Campbell.
Billy Campbell.
Campbell.
To be fair, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else.
No.
So he was fine. Maybe he wasn't spectacular. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I liked him.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like the character himself kind of feels like a surrogate for the audience, right?
Sure.
Like he's like the hero in every
right.
If you describe a hero, you're kind of describing every trait that he has. So I think he played it fine. He looked the part. I think he looked fantastic in this movie. The down to the costume design, just his actions and kind of like his mannerisms as he's talking. The middle part, it all feels right for this movie.
Champion, what do you think?
He was great. For someone who I've never heard of, I was expecting him to be the weak part of the film.
Sure.
He was, for a relative nobody, very solid. At no point was I scratching my head and wondering what he was doing.
Right.
Compare and contrast to his counterpart, the old man who was sort of working.
Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin,
yeah. Alan Arkin was frustrating to me.
I thought he was good. You didn't like him?
Oh, really?
Not really.
Really?
He just sort of bumbled his way through the film. But Billy Campbell, I think it was on the entire time, and I could buy the love interest between him and Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
He had this sort of everyman quality to him.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He was very relatable.
Yeah, he was.
Very relatable.
Yeah, and he also did the comedy well, right? He did everything well.
He didn't ham anything up. Yeah.
I just don't know what else he's done. I'd like to find out. But okay, so we've talked about Jennifer Connelly. We've talked about Timothy Dalton. What about Paul Sorvino as the mafia guy? I mean, I love Paul Sorvino from Goodfellas. He's pretty much playing the same role. What did you think of him, Ian?
He's one. I've never seen Goodfellas. We've talked about this on the podcast before. You know this. Yes. It's very high up on my list of things I have to watch. So I don't know him from Goodfellas.
Okay.
I know him as
I'll be fine.
I know him as Worf's adopted father.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Of course you do.
Okay, of course you do. Okay.
He was better in this than he was as Worf's father.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Anyway, I mean, he actually was good, and again, like we said, he kind of had his own little arc there, right?
Yeah.
So I thought he was really good. And again, it's almost like I kept waiting for it to get stupid and get over the top, but it didn't. It just walked the line. It was fine, right?
And the time I think it got the closest for me, where I was like, oh no, this is going to be bad, was the big guy. Like the big like gorilla Nazi guy.
Yeah.
When we see his like silhouette in the shadow, and we see that he's got like the big prosthetics. I was like, oh,
Right.
I think I was having Dick Tracy flashbacks.
Sure.
I was like, this is not going to be good. But even that
He was
character, I think,
fine.
was fine. Like, yeah,
I like.
was great.
I
in
like the
role. I
Dick
don't know.
Tracy-esque-ness to him because
Yeah.
it's like it gave it that comic book edge or whatever, but it wasn't stupid. It was always done well.
Yeah.
He was threatening, right? What do you think?
He was threatening. He was very weird looking in not a funny way, but like
Right.
an unsettling like.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? And it wasn't too over the top. Like you'd see little flashes where his enormous hand
Yeah,
opens
they had
the
like
tiny
a little miniature
doorknob.
Yeah.
doorknob. That's great.
and that just gives you a sense that like, no, this is just a beast of a human.
And then, like, I was thinking too that maybe it wouldn't work in a lot of the action sequences, but it does. Like,
He didn't
I
lumber.
no,
he was quick.
and like I had assumed that it was like practical effects making him look big
Right.
all the time, but then when we have this wide shot of all of these people walking into the club, and then he walks up and goes into the club, and he's like duck down to get in the doorway. I was like, whoa, like it's actually a huge guy.
you're right.
Like,
they picked. I don't know who it was. Do we have the access to the internet there?
Yes,
Who's
we
he?
do.
But-
we do.
but
Oh,
yeah, I had assumed that it was all just like tricks with the camera to
No, but
like
I know
make
you're
him
saying, like,
bigger.
Lord of
and
the
then
Rings, but it
and then
wasn't.
he was actually huge.
what was his character's name?
I don't know.
Oh, that's a
Big
thing.
guy.
Yeah,
Big,
yeah.
big
I don't
man.
know. But here's the thing: as you're looking that up, I'm just gonna say
Otis Bigelow, maybe. I
that's
don't know.
one of the things. Like everything about this movie clicked for me, and I think that the cinema. I'm not kidding. And we mentioned this, Josh. The cinematography was perfect. Like, and I mean, every shot, I was like, oh. They planned every shot as far as composition, as far as shadow, as
Yeah.
far as where he's gonna fly, as far as like there were like shadow.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the shadow would come in, then the guy would come in, or whatever it may be.
Very smart.
Even just like revealing Timothy Dalton from the back of the head, like little moments like that.
Right. When that big guy comes in and he puts his hat on the
Right.
thing, and then we turn around and it's the like who was it that was like it's what's her name was leaving the bar.
Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer
yes.
Connelly
Okay.
was leaving the bar, and it was just like this, and they like just missed each other, and they
Sure,
walked around
right.
each other. There's
That was another effective scene showing that really big
He's
guy's
huge, yeah.
hugeness, right? Because he's so big that he looked right over top of her. They just happened to be at
Yeah,
the desk.
good point.
She
Yep.
was getting her coat.
That was
and
a
he
great
just kind of
shot.
looked right over her head, didn't see her.
It was actually like, and again, I think going in, I thought, oh, this is going to be like kind of a throwback, but it was actually very an acute recreation of 1930s style, like directing, like by Michael Curtiz and people like that, which is what Spielberg also tries to emulate, right? Like these very well planned out long shots, and this movie did a really good job. Like
Yeah.
it's not the level of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's almost there. Like if you're looking for that type of vibe, like I tried to watch Romancing the Stone. You guys remember Romancing the Stone?
No.
That was
Familiar with it.
yeah, it was like a Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque movie that everyone talks about, and I tried to rewatch it. I'm like, I couldn't even finish it. This is a better movie than Romancing the Stone, I'll tell you that. This is good. Solid entertainment.
So that's interesting you say that, because this movie is a Disney film,
right.
and we have Howard Hughes in this movie, who is a real person,
Yes.
who also has a real world ties to Walt Disney and Walt Disney World. And I was just trying to look it up right before we were recording, and that's kind of why I was on the phone at the beginning here. And apparently, from what I can see, Howard Hughes actually made a real jetpack to fly around Disney World.
Really? Did it work?
Apparently, it was not like
Wow.
it was not like a here you go kid,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But it was like they had a stuntman in like a jetpack, and he flew around the castle and whatever. So it kind of started this weird real world lore that is tied in with like fictional Walt Disney World lore. There's a lot of places in Disney World, like bars and pavilions, that are weirdly connected to Howard Hughes
Sure.
in like a real world way, but also in like he like helped create this place, and he helped create Tomorrowland and like the world
Right.
of the future. And so it's so interesting that this movie almost feels like an in-fiction story for the Disney parks. And then it kind of helped create the spin-off movie by Brad Bird, Tomorrowland.
Oh,
which is not great.
Which
but
I've not seen.
It's
but yeah.
it's not fantastic. But it's so sure. I had no idea going into this that it was that connected into this kind of like real world ties. It's
a
interesting.
Smart movie.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there's a reference to the 1939 World's Fair, which of course I learned about from reading All-Star Squadron by Roy Thomas, the comic book. But it's like, it's that feeling of I don't know what that was. Was it the Age of Discovery? But just this feeling of, there's like a futurism from that time that is so cool, where they imagine this future is almost like a steampunk future of like, right, like robots and flying cars, but they all look like 1930s technology.
That's
right?
what Tomorrowland, both the movie and the Disneyland world, is.
Right.
And there's also like this fictional secret society, the explorers and inventors, where they have like Walt Disney, Jules Verne, Howard Hughes, all of these people kind of like, again, in this like fiction of this land, a part of this like inventors thing. So it's weird that this is kind of like in that wheelhouse.
It's all connected together.
Very meta.
Yeah.
Very
So
meta.
if there's something, besides everything else we've said, what do you guys think this movie does that the other superhero movies we've reviewed needed to learn or should have done or could have done? What do you think? What is it? Champion.
There's a plausibility to everything that was happening here that draws you in and sort of hooks you. Like everything felt as though it could be real.
Right.
Even our hero, everything that he did felt as though I could do this if I had a jetpack. And I think that you need that realism, even when you're talking about something as fantastic as a superhero. If my brain can't wrap itself around it, then I'm not going to care.
That's a great point. You're right. You're right. It could happen. Even though you know it can't, you suspend your disbelief enough to go, yeah, this could happen. Maybe it did, right?
Yeah. I think it also follows the rules of this world that it's set up for itself. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be rooted in realism. Because, like, The Empire Strikes Back is fantastic, but I don't believe that happened, right? Yeah. But it set up this world and this place, and it tells you these are the rules of what's happening here, and then it follows it the whole time. And I think that in this movie, it really does that well. The world building is very strong. The script is extremely strong, airtight, I think. Yeah. Like, everything really has a purpose. Everything flows together. Every shot also feels like it has a purpose. Yep. Like,
edit,
everything like it's so fine tuned. I think that it's just, I think it's just that. I think that it's just
really good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just good.
You're right. It's almost like at the end of the day, you go, okay, this is not a masterpiece, but why can't every movie be this good? Why can't every movie, like, no matter what the concept is, why can't the writers go, we're going to put all of our effort into this, and then the director does the same thing, and then the editor does the same thing, and then before that, cinematographer does the same thing, and go, no, I'm going to make every shot count.
Yeah.
I'm going to make every costume count. I'm going to make every line count. I'm going to make every sound cue count, right? And that's what I feel like this movie did. Everyone working on it put their best into it.
Yeah, because what could you consider as a perfect movie too, right? Like, it's such a broad thing, right? Like, does it have to be this serious?
No, it doesn't. No.
You know what I mean? Like, I think
Back to the Future is a perfect movie. Ghostbusters is a perfect movie. Right?
I think this is pretty damn close to being a perfect movie. Like, it's really solid.
Pretty strong words that I wasn't expecting to hear walking into this.
I know, right? Yeah. Exactly. Like, do I hold it as one of the best movies ever? No, not necessarily. But it's like, it's hard for me to poke anything wrong with it. Like, what could I say or bring that doesn't work?
I think the key is that for what it is, it's perfect. It doesn't aspire to be Lawrence of Arabia, but it doesn't have to be. For what it is, it is perfect, I think.
Yeah.
Champion.
Yeah. No, there's nothing you can point at in this film and say, I would have done this differently.
Right.
I would have changed this character. I would have cut that scene. I would have shortened this up. I would have expanded on this. Everything is the best that they could have done.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for improvement. And there's an atmosphere to it as well that's consistent the entire way through. And Josh, you made a great point about the world building and everything making sense and following the rules of that world. You step out of that and it's ridiculous. But this is just, I don't know. I'm kind of having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that this is as good as it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Even me, I was like, I'm the one that was like, do we have to watch this? But it was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Even the trailer wasn't that great.
No, the trailer was...
I was
had me
worried.
Kinda,
I was really worried, but I was like, what in the heck is happening? This is actually really good.
Yeah.
I thought it would be as weak as Dick Tracy. Like a
Really?
good visual set in the 30s, but just dull and boring. But it wasn't at all. It was good.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting vibe to this movie too. Like I was getting some, and I don't know why, I was getting some Last Starfighter vibes. Just sort of like the
Dare
small.
mention The Last Starfighter. It's so good.
No, it is, but it's also like maybe that's what it is. Like it's almost like a small town story, right? Like
It helps.
It's like small town pilot and his little group of friends, and the story is bigger than they are.
Yeah.
And sorry, there's a fly
Yeah,
buzzing
it's
around here.
annoying,
I've
yeah.
seen it's bugging you guys too. But yeah, it's the story of the protagonist who's really rising up above what he ever expected to be.
You know what? You made a great point, because one of the things superhero movies, most of them do wrong, is, the bad guy wants to destroy the world. But in this movie, the stakes are very contained. Even though they reference the outside world with World War II, the Nazis, blah, blah, blah. The fact is that it's in a small town. The cast is small, right? There's these bad guys here and these bad guys here. They go into a little tiny diner. They're out on a kind of a farmland, empty space. And I mean, yeah, it's in Hollywood, but like you said, it's very contained. That's smart. It's a good way to do it.
It's also crazy that it feels so contained, even though one of the plot points is that we can't let this jetpack get to the Nazis or they might win the world war.
You know what?
That's crazy. But it's
But it's not about that so
Yeah.
much. It's about what could lead to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? We have to keep this rocket pack from getting into their hands, because then bad things will happen.
Yeah.
But it's not about the bad things.
No,
it's about the rocket
It doesn't
pack.
feel like a war movie, like even in the slightest.
No.
Yeah.
There's when Timothy Dalton says, "What do you think I am?" and he says fascist, and he uses the word saboteur. Well, Alfred Hitchcock did a movie called Saboteur, and he did a bunch of movies in the 1930s that are spy movies. He actually invented the spy genre. I don't know if you know that. Nope. Yeah, the spy movie genre. And so you'd have these movies about just like, oh, we've got these secret plans for this one thing. And the whole movie's about these secret plans, but you only see one or two Nazis and one or two FBI agents. But the what's it called? The stakes are small, but like what you said, it could lead to bigger things. But it's actually very contained in the movie, and I think that's another reason this movie works.
Yeah,
is because they don't let it get too big for its britches.
And that's like the one scene that maybe didn't really work for me.
Okay,
now I'm kind of realizing why. When all those Nazi
come out of nowhere,
and now there's 50 people on screen with guns, it's like, whoa. Where did this come from?
Okay.
This was like... This
there was like 2 or 3 maybe. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
Like you didn't need
okay.
mowing down
so
all these people.
It's not a 10 out of 10. It's a 9.9 out of 10.
I got one other one too.
One
other little one.
Okay.
Timothy Dalton on the Zeppelin.
Yes.
When he starts speaking in a weird kind of German accent.
And then he switches right back to Timothy Dalton.
And then he switches right back to Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
Like, you're a spy. You're not an actual German Nazi. So talk like you're talking the entire movie. Don't like when you're yelling Schnell at the Germans on the Zeppelin.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense because you're talking to German, so you're speaking German.
Okay.
But when you're talking to Cliff Secord about now you've got the rocket pack, and you're slipping in these weird German accents. Yeah.
Something else like
Minor.
really tiny.
9.7, folks. We're down to 9.7.
There's something else
tear it apart.
really
Tear it
tiny in that same scene. I had to laugh. Again, this is so like nitpicky, but I was the whole time they were in the Zeppelin, I was thinking, what the hell kind of glass are they using for this Zeppelin? Because any sort of little bump and it shatters and somebody falls through.
Yeah.
But it's again, that's like.
But here's the thing: to make a comparison, this was a better use of a Zeppelin than Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah,
I thought more creative use, better use. And Ian, have you ever heard of a character called Indiana Jones? Okay,
apparently Howard Hughes knows Indiana Jones as well.
no, but you've seen all three. There's only three Indiana Jones movies, right?
Yes. The Crystal Skull is my favorite by far.
Okay, I thought so, just like everyone else. But yeah, I do think that obviously this is the same era, the same time period, but this makes a better use of the Zeppelin, I thought. That's all I want to say.
I don't really have.
It's been a while since I've seen Last Crusade.
Yeah, I just watched it this year, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll have to rewatch
Yeah,
it.
Anyway,
it's probably.
I remember it, but I don't remember
They didn't do much with it.
Oh, okay.
Not to say they had to. But anyway, okay, here's the thing. The comics are great. I actually want to go back and reread them. There's still Rocketeer comics today. Unfortunately, Dave Stevens died at a young age, like in his 30s.
Oh, wow.
Of some, I'm not sure of what. He had some disease. Really sad. But there's still Rocketeer comics being made today. So check those out. Check out the old ones by Dave Stevens. He's a great artist. So there you go. There's a non-Marvel and DC character that was adapted into a Disney film. And if you notice,
this was an independent comic?
Yeah, an independent comic book that was like picked up by, adapted by Disney.
Really?
And if you notice, his name's in the credits. He was a co-producer. So he had a little bit of say, which is the way to do it. I'm not sure. I hope he still owned it when they made the movie. I don't know how that worked out. But yeah, independently owned comic book. So check it out. You can still find these at Comic-Cons. Rocketeer. So I guess that's all we have to say, but definitely one of the better movies we've seen.
9.7 out of 10?
Yeah, on this podcast. So definitely pleasant surprise.
It might be the best movie we've... It's close to it. Maybe it's in the top. We did talk about Batman.
Batman, Superman.
Darkman. Come on.
Darkman was pretty good.
Ooh, is it better than Darkman?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like this better than Darkman for sure.
Actually, I think Champion, I think I like this better than Darkman.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I think so.
Interesting.
Pound for pound.
Well, there are certainly things that this movie does better. It's certainly, from a technical standpoint, this movie was great.
I think maybe Darkman has higher highs, but it might have lower lows. Like, there's nothing in this movie that compares to what's
The
that scene
elephant.
that we love? The elephant scene?
yeah. Take the fucking elephant.
Yeah, there's nothing in this, unfortunately.
No, there's nothing in cinema.
Yeah,
that
that's
has
true.
anything on that scene.
Like that.
No, you're right. I mean, Darkman
I'm pretty sure that was just Liam
is a
Neeson
very flawed
yelling
movie.
at the actress.
But
But-
it's also a spectacular movie.
It is, yeah.
But no, I understand. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay, so guess what? Every week at Meteor Wednesday night, we watch a different movie. Coming up, we're going to be watching...
Darkman.
Again, we're going to be watching Darkman. We're going to be watching The Shadow. We're going to be watching Attack of the Clones, Star Wars. We might even be watching Sandlot. Maybe.
Never heard of it.
Neither have I.
Is that a hockey movie?
Yeah, I think so. We might be watching Labyrinth. But yeah, go to our Facebook page, check it out, suggest movies, come out. Now we have snacks.
Bring a beanbag chair.
Yeah, bring a beanbag chair. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. Okay, so that's it. And Josh, where can you find our episodes?
You can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. You can also find the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, let us know what you guys think about the stuff we're talking about. How did you feel about The Rocketeer?
That's right. Let us know. Until the next time. See you later.